I was having coffee with my neighbor last week. She's 72, sharp as anything. We were talking about her grandson's graduation, and she mentioned something that stuck with me. She said, I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way I started feeling different. Not sick, not in pain, just different. That word stayed with me because I've heard it 100 times before. In fact, I heard it almost daily during the years I worked as a geriatric nurse in Philadelphia. Different. It's the word people use when their body is trying to tell them something, but they haven't quite figured out what yet. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I spent 26 years working in elder care, most of that time in a large urban hospital system. I've sat with thousands of people as they navigated their 70s and 80s. Some sailed through. Others struggled in ways that seemed to come out of nowhere. And here's what I learned. The body doesn't just age randomly. It sends warnings, specific ones, clear ones if you know what to listen for. But most people, they brush these warnings off as just getting older. And by the time they realize something needed attention, well, the window for easy intervention has closed. Today I want to talk about 5 warnings your body sends after 70. Not symptoms exactly, more like signals. Quiet changes that most people dismiss until they can't anymore. If you're willing to subscribe, I'd appreciate it. What I'm sharing comes from years of watching people either catch these warnings early or miss them entirely. The difference in outcomes is, honestly, it's staggering. Let's start with the first warning. Warning 1. Food starts tasting like cardboard. I don't mean you lose your appetite. I mean flavors just fade. Your favorite soup tastes bland. Coffee doesn't quite hit the same way. You find yourself adding more salt to everything, even though you never used to. This isn't about your cooking skills declining, it's your taste buds dying off. By 70, you've lost about half of them. Gone. The ones that remain, they're not as sensitive as they used to be. But here's the thing nobody mentions. This warning isn't really about taste, it's about nutrition. I had a patient, Edward. He was 74. Came in after a fall that broke his wrist. During our intake, I asked about his eating habits. He shrugged. I eat, he said. Cereal for breakfast, sandwich for lunch, whatever's easy for dinner. When I pressed him, he admitted food just didn't interest him anymore. Nothing tasted good. So why bother making an effort? Turns out Edward had lost 18 pounds over the previous year. He didn't even notice. His clothes felt looser, sure, but he figured that was fine, maybe even good, except it wasn't. That weight loss was almost entirely muscle mass. His body was literally consuming itself because he wasn't eating enough protein, enough nutrients, enough anything. Research shows that diminished taste is one of the earliest predictors of malnutrition in older adults. Not because you can't access food, but because when food doesn't taste good, you stop caring about it. And malnutrition, it weakens everything. Your immune system, your muscles, cognitive function, your ability to heal from injuries. Edward's wrist fracture took twice as long to heal as it should have. His doctor kept saying his bone density was the issue, but it was more than that. His body didn't have the raw materials it needed to repair itself. People who age well notice when food stops tasting right, and instead of just accepting it, they adapt. They use herbs and spices more liberally. They focus on texture, temperature, color, things that stimulate interest beyond just flavor. They eat with other people whenever possible, because social eating increases food intake even when appetite is low. They set meal schedules and stick to them even when they're not particularly hungry, because they understand something crucial. This warning about taste is really a warning about nutrition. And nutrition at 70 determines whether you're strong at 80 or struggling. Pay attention to this one. When food stops tasting good, that's not just annoying. It's your body telling you to change your approach before malnutrition sneaks up on you. Warning 2. You start hesitating before you move. This one's subtle, real subtle. You're about to stand up from the couch and you pause, just for a second. You kind of prepare yourself. Or you're going to walk down the basement stairs and you stop at the top step. Not because you're scared exactly, you're just assessing. That hesitation, that tiny pause before movement, that's a warning. I worked with a woman named Beverly. She was 71, lived in a 2-story house she'd been in for 40 years. knew every corner of it. She came to our clinic because her daughter insisted. The daughter had visited for a week and noticed Beverly hesitating before standing, before sitting, before going upstairs, before reaching for things. Beverly thought her daughter was overreacting. "I'm just being careful," she said. "That's smart at my age, isn't it?" Yes and no. Being cautious is smart, but hesitation before movement means something specific. It means your brain doesn't trust your body anymore. Perception. That's your body's sense of where it is in space. It starts degrading around 70. The signals from your joints and muscles to your brain get weaker, less clear, so your brain adds a step. Before it commits to a movement, it runs a quick check. Can we do this safely? Do we have the strength? Is our balance adequate? That check is the hesitation you feel. Beverly and I worked together for about 2 months. Exercises that rebuilt her confidence in her body's capabilities. Balance work, strength training, movements that required quick responses. And you know what happened? The hesitation disappeared. Not because she got younger, but because her brain learned to trust her body again. Here's what I tell people. If you notice yourself pausing before movements you used to do automatically, that's information. Your body is telling you that the connection between intention and execution has weakened. You can rebuild it, but you have to acknowledge it first. Most people ignore this warning. They tell themselves they're just being smart, being careful, and then one day the hesitation becomes inability, and they don't understand how it happened so fast. It didn't happen fast. It happened gradually while they were ignoring the early warning signs. Warning 3. Your handwriting changes. I know this sounds random. Stay with me. You've signed your name the same way for 50 years. It's automatic. You don't think about it. Then one day you notice your signature looks shakier. The letters aren't as smooth. Your writing in general looks less controlled. This isn't about arthritis necessarily, though that can be part of it. This is about your fine motor control degrading. I met a man named Walter when I was working in Pittsburgh. He was 73, former engineer, very precise person. He came in complaining about hand pain. During the exam, I asked him to write something for me, just a sentence or two. His handwriting looked like a different person had written it compared to his signature on the intake form from 5 years earlier. Shakier, less confident, letters of inconsistent size. Walter hadn't noticed, or if he had, he'd dismissed it. But here's what that change meant. His brain's ability to control fine movements was declining. The neural pathways responsible for precise motor control were degrading. Fine motor control isn't just about handwriting. It's about buttoning shirts, opening pill bottles, using utensils effectively, typing, turning keys, 1,000 small tasks that independence requires. Studies show that declining handwriting quality correlates with overall motor decline and, interestingly, with cognitive decline. Your hands are incredibly complex. Controlling them requires huge amounts of brain processing power. When your handwriting deteriorates, it often means several neurological systems are weakening simultaneously. Walter was skeptical at first, but we started him on exercises, not just hand exercises, full body coordination work that challenged his nervous system to maintain precise control. 6 weeks later, his handwriting had improved noticeably. Still not what it was at 50, but much better than it had been. The point isn't to get back to being 50. The point is to notice the decline early enough to slow it down. Look at your handwriting. Compare it to something you wrote 5 years ago. If it's changed significantly, that's a warning. Your brain's control over your fine motor skills is slipping, which means other motor skills are probably slipping too. You can work on this, but only if you notice it. Warning 4, you stop wanting to see people. This one it's probably the hardest to talk about. Around 70, a lot of people start withdrawing socially. Not because they're depressed exactly. They just stop feeling motivated to maintain friendships, to make plans, to engage with the world outside their immediate routine. They tell themselves they're just becoming more introverted, more comfortable with their own company. And maybe that's partly true, but it's also a warning. I worked with a woman named Dorothy. She was 76 when her son brought her in. He was worried because his mother, who used to host weekly dinners and play bridge twice a month, had basically stopped seeing anyone. She didn't seem depressed. She wasn't crying or expressing hopelessness. She just didn't want to bother. Making plans is exhausting, she told me. I'm fine here at home. Here's what was actually happening. Dorothy's brain chemistry was changing. Dopamine production dropped significantly after 70. Dopamine is what drives motivation, the feeling that doing something will be rewarding. When dopamine decreases, everything feels like more effort than it's worth. Not because you're lazy, because your brain's reward system isn't working the way it used to. Social withdrawal after 70 predicts cognitive decline more reliably than almost any other factor. Not because being alone causes dementia, but because the brain changes that reduce social motivation are the same changes that affect memory and processing speed. It's all connected. Dorothy didn't want to hear this at first. She insisted she was happy alone, but her son pushed back gently. He pointed out that she seemed less sharp than she used to be. She forgot conversations they'd had. She repeated herself more. We started small, one social engagement per week. Just one. Bridge on Thursdays. Resisted, but she went. And afterwards she admitted she'd enjoyed it, forgotten how good it felt to laugh with friends. Over time she added more back in. Not everything she used to do, but enough to keep her brain engaged with other people. And her cognitive function? It stabilized. Her son noticed she seemed sharper again, more present. Social engagement literally keeps your brain alive. Conversation forces you to process language, read social cues, access memories, maintain attention, regulate emotions. It's a cognitive workout. When you stop wanting to see people, your brain loses that stimulation, and without stimulation, it atrophies. I know this is hard to hear. Nobody wants to think that their preference for solitude might be a warning sign. But if you used to enjoy social activity and you found yourself withdrawing, that's worth examining. Really examining. Not because you need to become a social butterfly, but because maintaining some level of social engagement might be protecting your cognitive function in ways you don't realize. Warning. 5. Small injuries take forever to heal. You bump your shin on the coffee table, nothing serious, just a bruise. 2 weeks later, it's still there, darker than it should be, taking its time fading. Or you get a paper cut and it takes 10 days to heal instead of 3. This seems minor. It's not. Slow healing is your body's way of telling you its repair systems are failing. I had a patient named Frank. He was 72. He'd scraped his arm on a fence while working in his garden. Just a surface scrape, nothing deep. 3 weeks later, it still hadn't healed. It wasn't infected exactly, just not healing. Frank figured it was no big deal. Old people heal slower, right? Yes, but that slowness is a warning. 70, your body produces about 50% less collagen. Your cell turnover rate has dropped by 30%. Your immune response to injury is significantly weaker. All of this means small injuries linger, but it also means bigger injuries become catastrophic. If a minor scrape takes 3 weeks to heal, what happens if you actually get injured? Surgery? A fall? Frank's slow healing was a warning that his body's overall resilience had dropped below a critical threshold. We ran some tests. His protein intake was inadequate. His vitamin C levels were low. His overall nutritional status was borderline. We adjusted his diet, added supplements. Within 6 weeks, that scrape finally healed completely. But more importantly, Frank understood something now. His body needed more support than it used to. Better nutrition, more intentional care. Pay attention to healing times. If small cuts and bruises aren't healing the way they should, body is telling you something important. It's saying, my repair systems are struggling. I need help. You can provide that help. Better nutrition, adequate sleep, hydration, sometimes supplements under a doctor's guidance, but only if you recognize the warning for what it is. What all of this means. These 5 warnings, they don't usually show up individually. They tend to cluster. You notice food tastes bland, and you're also hesitating before standing up. Your handwriting's shaky, and you're also not healing as fast. Because they're all connected. They're all signs of the same underlying process. Your body's systems are declining, and they're declining together. The people who age well aren't the ones who avoid these warnings. Nobody avoids them. They're the ones who notice them early, who take them seriously, who adjust. I watched this play out hundreds of times. Two people, same age, similar health backgrounds. One notices these subtle changes and responds. The other dismisses them as just getting older. 5 years later, their trajectories are completely different. The one who paid attention is still active, still sharp, still independent. The one who ignored the warnings is struggling with basic tasks, losing cognitive function, dependent on others for help. The difference wasn't genetics. It was awareness and response. Your body is talking to you all the time. These 5 warnings are part of that conversation. When food loses its taste, that's your body saying nutrition is about to become a problem. When you hesitate before moving, that's your body saying my motor control is weakening. When your handwriting changes, that's your body saying my fine motor skills and possibly my cognitive function are declining. When you stop wanting to see people, that's your body saying my brain chemistry is changing in ways that will affect my cognition. When injuries heal slowly, that's your body saying my repair systems are compromised. These aren't individual problems, they're a system-wide message. And the message is, I need more support now. I need you to pay attention. I need you to adapt. What you can do. None of this is hopeless, not even close. Every warning I've mentioned can be addressed. Not reversed necessarily, but managed, slowed, sometimes even improved. Taste declining? Change how you approach food. Make it social, make it colorful, make it interesting beyond just flavor. Hesitating before movement? Work on strength and balance deliberately. Rebuild your brain's trust in your body. Handwriting changing? Practice fine motor skills. Do puzzles. Do activities that require precise hand control. Socially. Force yourself to maintain at least some social engagement, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Healing slowly. Examine your nutrition. Make sure you're giving your body the building blocks it needs. These aren't difficult interventions. They're just intentional. Most people over 70 ignore these warnings because acknowledging them feels like admitting defeat. It's not defeat. It's awareness. Your body at 70 isn't the same as it was at 50. Pretending otherwise doesn't protect you. It just makes you vulnerable. The strongest people I worked with, the ones who maintained independence and quality of life into their 80s and 90s, they all had one thing in common. They listened to their bodies. When something changed, they noticed. They didn't panic, but they also didn't ignore it. They adjusted. They adapted. They got help when they needed it. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. So pay attention. Notice when food tastes different. Notice when you hesitate. Notice when your handwriting changes. Notice when you're withdrawing. Notice when healing takes longer. These are gifts in a strange way. Early warnings that give you time to respond before small problems become big ones. Most people don't get clear warnings. They just wake up one day and realize they've lost something they didn't know they were losing. You have the chance to do this differently. Your body is talking. The question is whether you're listening.